Hi guys, the Martini Draft here today, and today we're going to be going through our Week 4 match in the Noob Draft League Glowpoke division. It's unfortunate last week we came home with a loss. It's unfortunate, but it happens. So our standings is currently 2-1, and we are at a -4 differential because of last game. Not the best position, but hopefully we can make it back. I have good hopes this game. In this game, this opponent is currently 2-1, and is doing much better than I am. Their first week match was against a friend of mine called Joey, and he got absolutely mollywopped by a certain Pokemon, which I'll go through in a few minutes. So our opponent is the Icky Town Incineroars, coached by Newt. Newt is a scary opponent. Newt is a really good battler, has some really good experience, especially in singles. And that's worrying, especially when you look at this absolute behemoth of a team. Let's start things off with Urshifu Single Strike. Arguably the most scary Pokemon in the format at this moment in time, because Unseen Fist allows it to go straight through Protect. Wicked Blow does a ridiculous amount of damage, and it crits every single time. So, Urshifu Rapid Strike, plus its Dark Fighting typing, and its amount of coverage is going to be very menacing, but as you can see, it's not the biggest thing on the board, because I've got backup plans for it. I've got plan after plan after plan for Urshifu. Hopefully that thing doesn't come to this game, but I think it will. I think their team is going to be this and a few other things on their team. Continuing a trend of what I think is going to become this game, we've got Goldinger. Goldinger is a scary Pokemon. It's running the same thing every time. My opponents run the exact same set on every single Pokemon every week so far, but they've brought different Pokemon in different weeks. Goldinger is fast enough, and it hits extremely hard with special attacking moves, namely Make It Rain, which is a very high power steel type move that is basically just Draco Meteor, but steel type, except it only lowers its special attack by 1 stage, I believe. Plus, it gets Nasty Plot, so it can boost its special attack through the roof. And Goldinger generally is a problem for us. That thing is probably running Air Balloon, so any ground-type moves aren't going to work first turn, which is why we've had to bring Dark coverage instead on our lead. Next, we've got Primarina. I do believe Primarina is coming to this game. I think likely the Pokemon that are coming to this game will be the first 5 Pokemon, and this guy, in Typhlosion. Primarina is a bulky water type. It is your draft league bulky water. Everyone has it. If you don't have one, you're doing it wrong. We're bringing our own bulky water. Sorry for the spoilers there. It's wearing a crown this game, surprisingly. And it's the first match it's actually come in. So, Primarina. Very, very scary mon. Obviously, fairy types are scary mons. I've got my main counter to this team really does well against Primarina. So, it's not that big of a problem, but stuff like Ogapon, that kind of thing, are going to be... Primarina will be an issue, I think. I think they will bring Primarina, very much so. It's a scary mon. I've already explained this. It's bulky, hits very hard. Let's see how it goes. Next, we've got Mega Aerodactyl. This thing is the biggest thing on the screen for a reason. This thing is an absolute menace to society. All the games they've won, they have killed them with Mega Aerodactyl. Namely the first one where they got a 5 or 6-0 win against Joey with Mega Aerodactyl with Dragon Dance. It was a major, major problem. Then you've got Rillaboom, which... Actually, no. We'll continue going over Aerodactyl. This thing has got a very annoying ability. Any physical moves it uses are boosted, including Dual Wing Beat and Stone Edge. This thing hits very hard and has a higher speed stat than anything on my team, which has forced me to run stuff like Choice Scarf and Focus Sash, which I didn't ideally want to run otherwise. Next, we've got Rillaboom. Rillaboom is a Pokemon that I think could come to this game. They are realistically running your traditional OU Rillaboom set with grassy terrain setting and going with Grassy Glide over and over and over again. This thing could be an issue. I think it's choice banned in most games, which is a problem because that thing hits hard. But our main counter to Aerodactyl anyway does really well against Rillaboom. It should be able to just one-shot it. And Grassy Glide is doing nothing to it. It is literally doing less damage than I think anything on their team can do, for the most part. So, you know what? We'll stop downplaying Rillaboom and we'll start upplaying Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen is a Gen 1 Pokemon, so obviously it's been power crept quite a bit. But that thing is bulky. Chuck that thing with a black sludge on there, and that thing will tank hits for days. Its matchup against me is pretty good. Not the best on their team, which is why I don't think it's coming, but it could very well come to this game. There's not much to talk about with Nidoqueen. I've prepared some stuff for it just in case it does end up coming to the game, but I do not think it's coming to the game, which is why it's so small. Typhlosion, I think, is coming to this game specifically to deal with one Pokemon and one Pokemon only. That is Celesteela. Because Celesteela messes up so many Pokemon on their team, which is why we're bringing it. Sorry for the spoiler. That Typhlosion kind of needs to come to this game because pretty much everything else gets absolutely annihilated. And even if Typhlosion's on the field, it's not going to do the best. It should do some good damage, but it's not going to do that much work. So I'm going to move on from Typhlosion, which is a Z-Captain, by the way, so it could very well be running a Fire-type Z-move and still just kill me anyway. And we'll move on to Noivern. Noivern is fast. It's not fast enough to outspeed some of my threats, but it's fast enough to where it can cause problems. Plus, it hits pretty hard. I don't think it's coming to this game. It doesn't really have a place against our team. Maybe against Ogerpon, but I think they're probably going to want to kill that with Aerodactyl anyway. But either way, I don't think it's coming to this game. Honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I don't think it's coming. So let's move on to Glaceon. I think there's about a 50-50 chance Glaceon comes to this game. There'll be something on the next slide that I'll go through why I'm scared of Glaceon. Spoiler alert, it's Z-Captain, so some of you might be able to figure out why. That thing could be annoying. My main wall for it is a Water type, which we are bringing, by the way. So if that thing has Freeze Dry, that could be an issue. The final mon is Charger Bug, which that thing's just running EV like Sticky Webs and Screens. Like, it does nothing else. That's just what Charger Bug does. The only reason you'd ever draft it. It's never an offensive pick. I don't think it's coming because we don't have the most hazard removal, but speed is not the biggest thing in the world. Obviously, Sticky Webs could be annoying. We're not actually bringing any hazard removal this game, so if they get Sticky Webs up, it could be an issue. Previous week notes. Yes, we're laying this out differently because it works better. So, week 1, they brought Flip Turn Primarina, Dragon Dance Aerodactyl. There's a very good chance it was Assault Vest Primarina, and it's an Aerodactyl lead. Aerodactyl absolutely messed up Joey, like I said. It was a very big loss for Joey. Ended up having him to switch divisions. And Primarina being AV is because it ran Flip Turn, it ran Hyper Voice, and it ran, I believe, Ice Beam or Moonblast. I cannot remember, but I think it probably had all attacking moves. So week 2, they once again led Aerodactyl. They had Sword Dance Urshifu. They had Air Balloon Goldingo, Nasty Plot Goldingo, your typical Goldingo set. Offensive Z-move Typhlosion, where they used the Tectonic Rage. They used the Ground-type Z-move with Scorching Sands. It didn't pick up a kill, but it very nearly did. And then you've got Grassy Glide Rillaboom, like I said. This is always expected. And then week 3, no surprises there. They led Aerodactyl again. Absolutely zero surprises. This is the reason I'm scared of Glaceon. Z-Celebrate. Z-Celebrate is something that is typically banned on a specific Pokemon, being Meloetta, but because Baton Pass is banned, it's stuck on Glaceon. So it might not be as much of an issue as it looks. Nasty Plot, Air Balloon, Goldingo, Grassy Glide, Rillaboom, still just going to be an issue. Those are the notes I made for week 3. I think the main problem is them leading Aerodactyl, which I think is something they're going to do against us. I think that's unavoidable, which is unfortunate, but we'll plan accordingly. So now we'll get onto our team and what we're actually bringing, so the actual team builder. First, we are bringing Ace again, our Ogerpon coming back for another week. It's bringing Ivy Cudgel, Stomping Tantrum, Hornleech, and Play Rough. Obviously, it's got Mold Breaker, Hearthflame Mask, because that's what we have to run. We're running a lot of speed this game, obviously with attack. It does outspeed one-shot Primarina, and it does well against literally everything except Aerodactyl and Nidoqueen, purely because we have super effective moves for them all, and we can one-shot. I don't think Stomping Tantrum's going to one-shot Nidoqueen, and we've got no super effective moves for Aerodactyl. Plus, this thing being in front of Aerodactyl, we've messed up anyway if this thing's in front of Aerodactyl for long. So, we're not running a setup set, because I know full well they're just going to switch to Mega Aerodactyl and one-shot me with a dual Wing Beat, which I'd prefer to preserve Ogerpon and go into a certain Pokemon that we're talking about next. But, that's the plan. We're planning on going into Ogerpon, killing something off, they go into Aerodactyl, we switch out into Celesteela, Fujitora making their opening entrance, their debut, and they're already wearing a crown. You might think this is weird, but this thing goes really well into their team. It does well against literally everything other than Typhlosion, and if that thing's not using a Fire Z move, Oakerberry will mean I tank the hit and I get Acrobatics boosted. Earthquake kills that thing into oblivion. Heavy Slam is there specifically to deal with Aerodactyl. Seed Bomb's there to deal with Primarina. And generally this thing, with its attack increasing Beast Boost, is going to cause major problems for my opponents. If either Typhlosion is not there, or it's just not on the field, my opponent might just outright lose to this Fujitora. I don't think they've got a clear way of dealing with it. Their best way is probably Rillaboom, and even that's iffy, because that thing gets absolutely walled by this thing. This thing's running, it might look weird to where I'm running 106 special defense and 152 defense. It is specifically calced to where it can tank a +2 Stone Edge or Dual Wing Beat or Fire Fang. It can tank 2 from the Mega Aerodactyl. It's specifically here to kill Mega Aerodactyl. If it kills Mega Aerodactyl, it's done its job, and we are in a very, very good position. Also, it can do pretty well against Urshifu, which Urshifu is going to cause problems, but this thing will tank at least 2 or 3 hits with Wicked Blow from Fujitora, plus Acrobatics or Heavy Slam will just annihilate it anyway. So we're pretty good into that. Next up, we brought an L again. We are always bringing an L. This thing is here less so this time to be a sweeper or a setup mon. It's here specifically to take out targets. It's more of an assassin. It's here to counter Urshifu, Rillaboom, and Aerodactyl. It's a backup for Aerodactyl. It's a counter to Rillaboom and Urshifu that I really needed with Air Slash and Thunderbolt. Then we brought Thunderwave to potentially get something off, potentially get knockoffed. That could be lovely. And Volt Switch is specifically there just to pivot round if I have the option. If I want to send it in earlier, for example, Aerodactyl's already dead, I will just Volt Switch around. So this is the set we're bringing on an L. It's nothing interesting this week on an L, but you never know. An L could put in some work. Next, we've got our lead being Kizaru the Uxie. Uxie could very well cause problems for my opponent. It's going to be my lead because with Stealth Rocks up, I one-shot Aerodactyl. The main problem is my opponent has continued to lead with Aerodactyl. It doesn't do the best against Aerodactyl lead, but it can do decent. With the chip damage you can get off with Psycho Cut, we can still kill with a certain Pokemon that we've got. You'll see no physical defense investment. This thing's really just here to tank hits from special attackers, because those are the main problems at the moment that we were running into. It's got 40 speed, because it helps us outspeed some really the lower tiers of speed on that team, and we need a 216 attack, purely so we can one-shot Urshifu with Play Rough. We barely one-shot Urshifu with Play Rough. If it's max attack, we will one-shot it. That's not a question. Kizaru is here so that if they lead with anything other than Aerodactyl, this thing will cause major problems for my opponent. Like, it would be a huge blunder to not lead with Aerodactyl against me, because Kizaru will mess them up. So let's move on to the next Pokemon, shall we? Yes, Kizaru is coming back for another win, hopefully. But let's move on to Jinbei. Jinbei is very much so making their debut today, and this is what I meant by bulky water. Not the bulkiest Pokemon in the world, but this thing can cause so many issues for my opponent's team. Like, that thing wearing the crown it is completely justified. It can one-shot every member of their team with a move it's got, other than Primarina, and that's a 2-shot with Rock Slide. So, Sheer Force Life Orb, if you didn't know, Life Orb doesn't do it doesn't deal damage to you if you've got Sheer Force, because it cancels out the ability for some reason. Which means if you're running Sheer Force Life Orb, you basically just get a major attack boost. Sheer Force boosts the damage of your moves with second effects, but it gets rid of the second effect. Which means as long as we're using a move with a second effect, which all of our moves are having second effects, flinch chance, freeze chance, lower defense chance, flinch chance. All of them have secondary effects, so Sheer Force will always be boosting it. Life Orb will never do recoil. And with this attack stat, we will one-shot Aerodactyl, even if it's at 200% HP. It obliterates Typhlosion. It can one-shot Typhlosion even in Sun, which I doubt's coming, but you never know. And it can one-shot everything except Primarina, obviously. So this thing could be putting in some real work. I would keep your eyes out for this and Fujitora. I honestly think Jinbei could put in some work. Jinbei's probably going to die pretty quickly. I think Jinbei will die, but I think he'll take a couple Pokemon down with him. The final Pokemon we're bringing is Magellan, coming back from week 1 with pretty much an identical set. It's here to deal with Noivern and Primarina. I looked at my team, I saw pretty much no real answers to Primarina specifically, so I saw Magellan and I thought, you know what, buddy, we'll give you another week back. Z-Haze is very much so here to deal with Glaceon as well, so if that thing Z-Celebrates, I can just click Z-Haze, go back up to full, and get rid of those stat buffs. It's bringing Knockoff, Poison Jab, Ice Punch as well, so if we need to Icium Z, Ice Punch that Aerodactyl in front of us, we can. It's not ideal, but we can do it. And it's a really good answer to Primarina, namely, it's mainly bringing HP and physical attack. It's got a bit of physical defense, it's got no speed, essentially. No special attack either. So Muck is namely here to deal with them. So that's going to be our team for week 4, guys. I'm hoping we get a win, unlike last week. I'm hoping we can get our record up a bit. I'm honestly, obviously hoping for a 6-0 win, but I don't think we're getting one. I predict a 3-0 win at most, which puts us at a -1 differential with 2-2, which is unfortunate, but if that's what we can get, that's what we can get. I will not be complaining about that one. So I will see you guys next time for week 4. Have a nice day, guys. Goodbye.